If you enjoy damage over time builds, this video is absolutely for you. This is the strongest dot build in the entire game, and once you play it, the game genuinely stops feeling fair. It doesn't matter whether you're playing PvE or PvP. If your goal is to deal absurd levels of dot damage, this is the build you want. What makes this setup so powerful isn't just raw numbers, but how aggressively it converts bleed into burst damage. You're constantly applying stacks, clearing them for massive payoff, and chaining buffs that push damage over time to absurd levels. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this build already feels overtuned, even at the highest difficulty. In this guide, I'll walk you through exactly how to scale your damage over time, how to maximize it, which skills matter, and the precise combo sequence you should be using for peak efficiency. So let's dive straight in. We'll start with the core of the build, the strategic sword martial art. To obtain it, you need to travel to Lone Cloud Martial Sanctum, a hidden location in the southern area of the first region. Accessing this sanctum requires a dragon key, which you can easily pick up from Unearned Lesson Quest, Solo Mode Level 2 Breakthrough. Its martial arts skill, Inner Track Slash, lets you dash toward an enemy and perform a quick slash that deals damage and applies bleed. If you press the skill again within 2 seconds, you unleash consecutive slashes in front of you, applying more bleed stacks. Next is the special skill Inner Balance Strike. This skill allows you to dodge backward and then unleashes a flurry of attacks against enemies in front, applying bleed at the cost of stamina. Here's where things start getting insane. If the enemy already has 5 stacks of bleed, activating this special skill triggers massive bonus damage and clears all bleed stacks from the targets. This bleed detonation and damage coming from dots is the main damage engine of the entire build. The charge skill, Second Track Slash, allows you to charge forward in a powerful dash, dealing heavy damage to all enemies in your path while applying 5 stacks of bleed. The real value here is that you are completely immune to damage during the dash, making it both a devastating offensive tool and an incredibly reliable defensive option for dodging dangerous attacks. Strategic Sword truly breaks once you unlock the Sword Horizon Inner Way. To get it, head to the Ghost Market and purchase all 30 Unknown Old Books from this merchant. This will cost a fortune, so be prepared to burn through your coins. Once purchased, open all of them to comprehend the Inner Way. With Sword Horizon equipped, every time you use your martial arts skill, special skill, or charge skill, you gain access to a follow-up attack called Crisscrossing Swords. This follow-up requires very precise timing, especially after the special skill. Even with practice, it can feel inconsistent, so if you've mastered the timing, feel free to share your method. Crisscrossing Swords clears all bleed stacks and deals a large chunk of high bleed damage, making it another powerful detonation tool. So now you can detonate bleed stack with either special skill or Crisscrossing Swords attack. Upgrading Sword Horizon should be your absolute top priority. At Tier 1, casting Crisscross Blade restores 8 endurance, which this build desperately needs. Tier 2 increases your max physical attack based on solo mode level. Tier 3 introduces Crosswind Blade Spirit, which builds up whenever you deal high bleed damage. Once it's full, your next Crosswind Blade is guaranteed to be an affinity hit. Affinity attacks deal 35% more damage, scaling directly from your max physical attack. Tier 4 pushes this even further by increasing high bleed damage by 15% while Crossblade Spirit is active. With Strategic Sword, your core objective is simple but deadly. Apply bleed aggressively, then detonate it using your special skill or Crosswind Blade. Now, let's talk about the damage amplifier that takes this build to another level. The Heavenquaker Spear martial art. You can obtain it using skill theft from Raging Tide's Martial Sanctum in the northeastern area of Qinghe. For this build, we only care about its martial arts skill and its charge skill. The martial arts skill, Sober Sorrow, unleashes 6 sweeping attacks against nearby enemies. While it's excellent when surrounded with mobs, that's not why we're using it. After the skill ends, you gain a damage buff for 12 seconds based on how many hits you landed. Fewer than 5 hits grants Water Drop for a 10% damage increase. 5 or more hits activates Spring Surge, giving you 15% increased damage. More than 10 hits triggers River Flow, which boosts damage by a massive 20%. Next is the charge skill, Drifting Thrust. This unleashes a rapid flurry of thrusts and applies a crucial debuff called Soul Shaken. Every hit applies 1 stack, increasing damage over time taken by 10% for 10 seconds. This stacks up to 5 times, meaning at full stacks, enemies take 50% more dot damage. On top of that, each stack also increases high bleed damage by 10%, giving you another 50% boost at max stacks. To make this rotation consistent, you need the Wolfchaser's Art Inner Way, which you can find in the same area as the Heavenquaker Spear. Explore the region and you'll discover a golden chest guarded by 2 militiamen. This Inner Way is mandatory. Without it, you simply cannot reach the 20% damage buff reliably. Its base effect reduces the combo count required to gain buffs from the martial art skill. When the enemy is affected by bleed, your combo count increases based on the number of bleed stacks. So always make sure the target has at least 4 bleed stacks before activating Sober Sorrow. At Tier 1, the buff duration for martial art combos increases to 15 seconds. Tier 2 boosts affinity rate based on solo mode level. Tier 3 increases Sober Sorrow's damage by 10% and grants a massive 60% damage reduction while casting it. Tier 4 is where things get wild. Reaching 12 combo counts grants the Raging Waves buff, increasing damage by 25%, while special skill sweeping attacks now deal damage and restore health equal to 20% of the damage dealt. Your full combo rotation works like this. Start by applying bleed using either Strategic Sword's charge skill or martial arts skill. Swap to Heavenquaker Spear, use the martial arts skill, and land at least 9 hits to trigger River Flow. Then use the charge skill and land 5 hits to fully stack Soul Shaken. Switch back to Strategic Sword and repeatedly trigger high bleed damage detonations. You can weave Dragon's Breath Mystic skill into this sequence for even more dot damage. Now let's talk about other inner ways that maximize this build's potential. Sword Horizon and Wolfchaser's Art are non-negotiable and form the backbone of the setup. For your remaining 2 slots, use following inner ways. First one is Morale Chant. It provides consistent damage boost and physical penetration through the Yi River buff. At Tier 1, each Yi River stack increases physical penetration by 2, improving both damage and healing from physical attacks. Tier 3 doubles Yi River's effect when the target is controlled. Tier 4 guarantees Yi River application at 100% and extends its duration to 12 seconds. You can obtain Morale Chant by collecting 5,000 Echo Jades and purchasing all 10 pages from the merchant near the Blissful Retreat teleport. Another strong option is Bitter Seasons. When dealing damage, it has a 10% chance to apply a poison effect that deals damage once per second for 5 seconds and reduces physical defense by 1.2% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Tier 2 increases precision rate based on solo mode level, which directly improves critical and affinity hit frequency. You can obtain this inner way from the Gleaming Abyss quest by defeating the Void King and opening the legendary chest. There are solid alternatives as well. Adaptive Steel is incredibly strong even at base level. Sword attacks have a 10% chance to apply an extra bleed stack on affinity hits. And since this build also uses a spear, you gain the spear bonus as well, allowing spear attacks to ignore 12.5% of the target's physical defense. Tier 2 increases max Bell Strike attack based on solo mode level. Tier 3 boosts movement speed by 20% while slowing enemies by 20% after using a dual weapon skill. Tier 4 restores 10 endurance when casting a dual weapon skill, which fits perfectly into this setup. You can unlock Adaptive Steel through the Melodies of Peace quest in the first region. Insightful Strike is another inner way that is recommended by game and for good reasons. Dealing affinity damage generates focus, and when focus is full, you enter concentration mode for 10 seconds. During this state, affinity damage increases by 10%. Tier 3 boosts affinity rate by 3% while concentration is active. Tier 4 increases focus generation speed by 50%, and Tier 6 increases damage over time by 20%, which fits perfectly into a dot-centric setup like this. Unlocking it is straightforward. Head to Encircling Lake, challenge Feng to an archery duel, and achieve Grade A. For Mystic skills, there's only one you need, Dragon's Breath. It perfectly complements this build by applying Burn, another damage over time effect. To obtain it, speak to this NPC in the fairground area of Kaifeng, then steal the required item from another NPC located at the marked spot. Head back to the fairground area and deliver the item to obtain Dragon's Breath. Finally, let's cover gear and pathing. Choose the Bellstrike path and store your best gear in the arsenal to get the most out of it. Enhancing gear slots is extremely important, especially for your main weapon. Focus on offensive slots first, then defensive ones. Please don't sleep on this system. The optimal gear setup is a full Hawking set for offense and Eagle Rise set for defense. 2 Hawking pieces grant affinity rate, while 4 pieces activate Hawking when dealing affinity damage, increasing physical attack by 2% for 5 seconds, and stacking up to 5 times. The Eagle Rise set provides physical defense, and when you deal damage over time, you gain Eagle Rise buff, reducing damage taken by 1.2% for 10 seconds, and stacking up to 5 times. At max stacks, you also gain Eagle Guard reduces the next incoming damage by 90% or 45% against bosses. On your gear, prioritize max Bellstrike attack, max physical attack, and power, because those are the stats which increases the effectiveness of your martial art talents. Bellstrike penetration scales from max Bellstrike attack. When calculating bleed damage further increases affinity rate based on max physical attack. Affinity rate can be increased based on power. And that's it for this build guide. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have suggestions or corrections, let me know in the comments. They help me, and they help everyone watching.